to the guiltiest of men, the vermin, the heretic, the alien, Tommy Robinson.
I mean, you're right. Speaking of Irishmen,
Yeah, actually. Funny, isn't it?
Mm.
A lot of the dissident right movement in the UK is weirdly a bunch of Irishmen.
So I have a very controversial view about Tommy Robinson.
Sure.
Shall I do it now, or should we get into it a bit further?
Well, let's lay out the facts for everyone, and we've got to be very specific about this, of course, because this won't be going on Facebook because they literally still label him as next to Adolf Eichmann. Cool. And on YouTube, they're a bit sensitive, although they will let us talk about him. So we'll talk about the facts and just facts.
I would say anyone who is still under the impression that Tommy Robinson is what the media want you to believe that he is, the thing that really turned me around was about 7 years ago, the Gad Sad episode with Tommy Robinson. So look that up if you want to hear Tommy Robinson talking about his own experiences, and you'll get a truer picture of who the man really is.
Well, what he decided to do over the weekend, on Sunday specifically, there was a rally against anti-Semitism, a protest against anti-Semitism. It was organized by Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. And this is obviously in the context of Israel-Palestine, because what other paradigm do we live in? And so you can see here, GB News were saying they were intimidated by protesters at the Gaza side of this the day before. And the Metropolitan Police responded by saying the right of the press to freely report on protests is no less important than the right to protest itself. They should be able to do so without facing intimidation or aggression.
Ooh. Oh, screw you, Met Police.
Well, thanks for clearing up. I'm sure that's what the law is. So as you can see here, Robinson turned up to the protest against anti-Semitism the next day with that tweet on his phone. And this is him being welcomed by people who were attending the protests and friends of his, many of them Jewish, of course, who are big fans of his because he went to Gaza and Israel a while back and came out of it very pro-Israel. So since he's been posting stuff that's very pro-Israel as well. So he's definitely on one side of that debate. And this goes on for a while. As you can see, John posted the full footage here. It was just person after person comes up and hugs him, shakes hand. Pretty normal for him. Weird, isn't it? He doesn't have to live in fear walking around, but politicians do. And what happened after he turned up with a cameraman and an assistant to cover a story? Well, the police turned up and started threatening him.
Hi, folks. Sorry to interrupt the video, but I just wanted to announce that we have a new line of merch in our merch store. The merch store was kind of empty for a while, and so I thought, right, okay, what do I actually want on shirts? And so I just went through some of the most epic and true things that I think that historical people have said, and John managed to make an amazing set of merch out of it. And we will have extra things coming in the store, such as posters for these to go on. Thanks for everything, folks. Now back to the video.
Cool. That freedom of the press thing lasted long. There's a higher quality version of the, I don't know if we can load it up. There should be another link in there, John. A higher quality version of the conversation because, unless we changed it, I think we might have changed it instead. I don't know. But the conversation is the police just shouting at him, "Why are you here?" And he just tells them, "I'm getting paid by Urban Scoop. I'm here to be a journalist."
Well, and he's sat peacefully in a cafe.
Yes. Well, it hasn't started yet, the march. So he's like, "Yeah, I've had people come up. We've done some interviews. We're going to go out, do some more interviews. And I'm going to go home. Got my cameraman here, and I've got my assistant."
Right. So just to be clear, he hasn't stabbed anyone at this point.
No, he hasn't even done anything. He has existed as himself.
I mean, he was going to. Obviously, that's why they showed up, but he didn't yet.
I think I may have bugged up with the thing, John. So don't worry about that. I just didn't add the link I was thinking I had. But you can see the full version here. It's just there's also a high quality one on, I think, Richard Ibman's.
Because I can see harassment taking place, but it's not Tommy doing it.
No, it's certainly not. But they refuse to listen to anything he says. Like, this goes on for ages. You can see the lower policeman there in the blue, and then one in yellow turns up.
What is the reason? What is the reason?
To prevent harassment, alarm and distress, the members of this community around here were asking you to please leave.
To prevent?
Yes. Would you please comply with
No.
the instruction these officers have asked you?
I'm here to do...
So he explains he's here to do his job. But the thing being that they say, well, the organizers of the protest have asked us to enforce a Section 35 order, which is to remove you because you can cause alarm or distress to the members of this march. Tommy points out that they are literally hugging him. So that doesn't make any sense.
You know, sovereign is he who creates the exception kind of thing. But I mean, why can't we all just say, well, all of the all of the Hamas supporting immigrants are causing us fear and distress, and therefore we need to Section 35 them out of the country.
Legally, you could, but the police won't enforce it.
Yes.
This is the real problem with the UK, and it's demonstrated so brilliantly here. And then for all the criticisms I can have of Tommy, and I've worked with him, I've got plenty, and the criticisms I have of him in this instance are zero, because he has perfectly demonstrated something as crystal clear to a maximum number of people, and good on him in his effect here. Because, of course, he then goes out, and you can see people pointing out, here's the treatment of Tommy Robinson, getting arrested immediately, whereas the Hamas guys just get away with whatever they want. And this is the full footage here, in which they decide, okay, no, we're going to go do our job. If you want to arrest us for being journalists, you can do that as the police force, but you're bloody mental to do that. So we're just going to go do what we want. If you want to basically break the law and arrest us,
Because, I mean,
you can.
Tommy has had this treatment for years. I mean, years ago, he had the police turn up at his house in the middle of the night, and they basically stripped his house down. They went looking for everything. They were desperate to find a crime. The only thing they could eventually find was some weird technicality where basically he'd lent his brother a little bit of money to buy a house.
They charged him with mortgage fraud.
Yeah. And so he went to jail for that. I mean, the British state is determined to persecute him using whatever means they can. And when they can't find a means, they just persecute him anyway for no reason.
So here's the evidence. He did turn up as a journalist. He was being paid by an outlet to do that. He is with a cameraman and an assistant. He is not with a group of lads. He is not part of there as a march. He is correctly there as a journalist. The British system does not have some mandatory membership of a trade union to be recognized as a journalist. It is literally just, is there a reasonable excuse to believe you? And in this case, obviously, there is. And that didn't matter. He explains to them here what the law is. They say, we don't care.
We're not.
We've got our own law, which is Section 35. We've been told you're causing alarm or distress by unknown person. So
and notice there's an officer stood behind him, filming him at all times, just praying that he says or does something that they can use.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't, well, we're gonna arrest him anyway.
So there you are. He gets arrested by about 50 police officers. Obviously, the Jews who were there are not really impressed. They're like, "What the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you? Like, this guy's been pro us." And you can see here as well, they decide to pepper spray him. Like, they've got 50 guys, and this guy here, you can see he pulls out the red there, pepper sprays Tommy in the eyes.
And he did it because he wants to.
There was no need to.
Yeah.
You had plenty of use of force to control him. You were already moving him out of the area by force. But just pepper spray him, why not? That police officer should lose his job.
He should go to jail for assault.
Should do.
But of course he won't, because there is a completely separate standard of justice. I mean, for me, it was really Tommy Robinson who made me realise that the rule of law is a complete myth.
And that's the point I'm trying to get at. You can see him. This is him reporting from inside a police van with his eyes all bucketed up from the pepper spray there. And that's the big event out of all of this. There was some, there's various criticisms of him, but in this event here, I get a bit annoyed when the stories are made about him specifically and the story becomes about him. But that's not what this is. What this is him demonstrating to a massive audience, millions and millions of people saw this story, that there is a two-tier policing system. And if you're Anglo-Saxon, that's how you get treated, or a supporter of the Anglo-Saxons. Whereas if you're not, literally do what you want in London. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, call for the deaths of people, call for raping people. It literally doesn't matter if you're from a certain community.
And the police are your own personal enforcers to do that, because it seems to me that a certain section of the police in not Manchester, although probably in Manchester as well, in London, are openly spiteful and vindictive against the native population. And as you say, are eagerly waiting for them to slip up or do something that means that they have any excuse to commit violence to you. Or they just do it because, hey, why not? It's this guy who everybody hates anyway. We can get away with it.
The reason they are especially scared of Tommy is because, and this is something I mentioned on the podcast before, is that we can talk about these issues, but as long as we're just talking about it, the state would like to shut us down, is in the process of shutting us down, but at the moment it hasn't decided to move the line from people talking about it. What Tommy does is calls to action. He can send out a tweet or some Facebook posts, and he can have 50,000 people turn up on a street corner in London, and that scares the living shit out of the establishment, because he can actually get people move. He can mobilise more people than the Met Police can.
Yeah, is there a single politician who can mobilise as many people as him to a rally? No, doesn't happen. And the you can see here just
Yeah,
what
they
means.
are terrified of this man.
And the police issued a statement in which they say in here that we've been in frequent contact with the organizers of the march in recent days. They have been clearer about their concerns that the man in attendance would be likely to cause fear to other participants because he would be bringing people with him. They say accompanying him. The people accompanying him in this instance were a cameraman and an assistant. So him, a cameraman, and an assistant were going to cause fear to the public, were they? Well, we could just say that about any BBC journo ever, couldn't we? Because it's true. They're scum. I mean, they are just going to cause fear to you because, like, yeah, you're just going.
But also, they're responding to the media fiction of the man and not the man himself.
Well, they say they get it from the organizers of the march, which we will get back to. As a result, he was spoken to and warned on more than one occasion that his continued presence was likely to cause harassment, alarm, or distress to others. There's no evidence of that. We're aware that the man has suggested that he was in the area as a journalist. As if it's a suggestion. No, there's a fact, a demonstrable fact. We can see it. This was not a relevant factor, they say. And then they go on to say, a man has now been charged in connection with this incident. Stephen Lennon of Bedfordshire, his real name, of course, has been charged with failing to comply with a Section 35 direction excluding a person from an area. So they're actually going to take him to court over this. And as you can see, he put out a video, which, sensitive content. Are you kidding me, Twitter? It's literally just him coming out of prison and reading a document. So he reads in the document that he's banned from London until January 2024.
That is so wrong.
That's the terrifying aspect, though, isn't it? That's them in fear yet again. It's like, we got to ban him. We just got to ban him from being here. Because what? They'll turn up with a camera?
And the thing is, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if when they take him to court, they actually jail him again for this. They will jail him for sitting in a cafe.
It's a very, very serious crime to be Tommy Robinson. Shouldn't have done it, Tommy.
The way this man is treated is just so... Speaking directly to you, Met Police, screw you. Seriously, screw you for this. It is ridiculous.
And that's why this event is so cool, because it did wake up so many people who were on the fence about the two-tier policing system. It's good to see them getting it. Now, campaign against anti-Semitism. Because the event itself is cool. The exposure, cool. I find them more interesting. Because why exactly did they decide that he can't be present? He's a man who supports Israel. He supports trying to destroy Hamas, etc. He's endless whenever he talks about this. That's the side he comes down on.
Tommy's way more pro-Israel than any of us are.
Yeah, and as you can see, they put out a statement saying, no thanks to his attendance. The drunken far-right thugs who came to protect the Zenitaf on Armistice Day, some of who shouted Sieg Heil.
What?
I missed that. I paid attention to that story, missed that one.
Zionists are well known for screaming Sieg Heil.
Yeah. Or hospitalized police officers. It didn't happen. They're not welcome. Okay. He then goes on to just talk about this lord that he likes, that last paragraph, which has nothing to do with
This is just a left-wing mushroom fever dream. This is nonsense.
It didn't happen. Like, you just made that up. What's wrong with you? And the lord they're talking about at the end there, he's just some guy who talks about diversity. Why wouldn't he be? Okay. Completely pointless. But here is their chief executive of Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Now, I can only assume, because they don't tell us who specifically organized the march and made that specific complaint, it has to be him. Because on their website, they've got two people. And it's him and some other guy. And then he's the chief executive. So I assume he's organizing this. And here he is in London, obviously quite proud of what happened, his march that he organized, etc. And in which case, I did write to them. I sent them an email 2 days ago asking them, what specific thing did he do that meant that you guys said he couldn't be there? Thank you very much for your time. Hope to hear from you soon. And they just sent back a stock reply being like, he's not welcome. Thanks.
They got nothing.
They have nothing. They literally have nothing.
It's interesting that for somebody who so supports their stated cause, that this is how they'll repay him for it.
I mean, it literally is the meme of like, I don't care how many people from the Muslim world say that we need to be exterminated. I'm not siding with Tommy Robinson. He's literally handing out a hand, being like, come with me, and you shall be safe in England forevermore. Ugh, I'd rather die. What's wrong? I'm sorry, but this is such a stupid coalition.
It reminds me of that Stone Toss meme where it's the communist saying how much he supports the working class, and then the Republican working class oil worker turns and says, well, glad to have you on board, buddy, and he recoils in horror.
Comical. Absolutely comical. But anyway, the big story out of it being that, as you can see here, if you just look up his name, it's endlessly various people talking about the two-tier policing system. Even Julie here, although she did do the stupid thing She went on her show and was like, wow, some of his views are a bit racist. And then just didn't say which ones, because there aren't any. And then obviously Tommy revealed that they've had secret meetings, and she tells him that she supports everything he says.
The thing you've got to bear in mind with the
Stupid.
British state is they need the image of Tommy that they have created, because, and it's the same with the US as well. The actual terrorism that takes place is all Islamic terrorism, but all of the police and intelligence services priorities are all focused on the far right. So they desperately need far right figures to justify the massive amount of attention and budget that they're spending on far right terrorism that simply doesn't exist. So they need figures like this. And the fact that he isn't what they say he is massively inconvenient to them. And so they must persecute him endlessly.
They need a Nazi. They can't find one, so they'll just do this.
Yeah.
This is good enough. This English patriot. Yeah, he likes the Germans.
This Israel supporting, half his friends are black. Tommy is the best we can do as a Nazi.
I was trying to find an image here. There is a famous image of him burning the Nazi flag in his early days. Like, none of this is new. It's just they hate him. So to get back to the march, because there was some news out of it, there is Rebel News went down, as you can see, Ezra, who interviewed various Jews to ask them, what do you think of mass immigration then? Because London didn't used to be like this. Now it is. This is why you're marching. And then there was a plethora of views. This lady is like, yeah, we need less. I'm pretty well aware of where anti-Semitism comes from. Is what this lady's talking about. And then there are other people like this guy who's just like, you're oversimplifying the issue. He literally says it multiple times. It's like, look, you're just oversimplifying it. We need to crack down on anti-Semitism. And Ezra, obviously being a man who's traveled the world, is like, where does it come from? And
It's not hard.
So this man's saying all of that whilst carrying a Union flag with him.
Yeah, it's it is just stupid. But that's what I mean. This individual here and whoever organized this, who decided Tommy Robinson's not welcome, or those figures, we've been over like, what was it, Miss Wallersteiner, who wants mass immigration, celebrate diversity, and then is like, hang on a minute, why are all these people pro-Palestinian? I mean, it's comical. These individual people, you are in such a stupid coalition if you think that people like Tommy are your enemy. That's what's so comical about this.
Because he's never bothered to listen to what the man himself has to say.
No, why would he? And then I just wanted to end this off with something funny, which is that this guy here is talking about the fact that the country is being changed without our consent. And the conversation from the people in the mainstream, like this guy here, is just like, wow, I must be saying something right. 1.3 million views. This is how out of touch some people are.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy lives in London. He's well aware.
He's the smug London elite. And I have to really emphasize how smug this absolute bellend is.
So before we end this off, can I give you my slightly controversial theory on Tommy Robinson?
Sure, go for it.
Now, I have discussed this with Connor and Kelvin Robinson, and I was unable to persuade them of my case in the end. But I think this is justified, right? Okay, so my point is that Tommy is a man who's been persecuted by the state. He is a man who's performed certain miracles, such as basically curing people of blindness, not physical blindness, but he's helped them to see the world, right?
I can see where this is going.
I also think that the British state, if we did crucify people today, it would be Tommy, right?
Yeah.
Follow me so
Yep.
far. And earlier on in this video, you showed us the pepper spray of destiny. The case I put to Calvin was, the Christian belief is very much focused around a second coming. Now, it's not obvious when the second coming comes, but all I'm saying is that you've got to have a list of candidates, and I think that Tommy, I think he's a pretty bloody good candidate, to be honest.
Well, for your new religion.
No, for Christianity.
Okay. I mean, I don't think.
Am I wrong?
He's not Christ.
I don't think
Well-
you're going to make much headway.
I do believe. Maybe we'll agree on this because I remember.
I'm deadly serious.
And the March for
I'm deadly serious,
Anti-Semitism
by
are
the way.
eagally throwing him to the jaws of the government as
Because
well.
the first time round, it wasn't obvious when the Messiah had arrived, and I'm just saying it won't be obvious the second time around. I just think there's something in this.
Well, anyway,
So you're saying Dan's theory is that Tommy Robinson might be the king of the Jews.
Possibly. I mean, I mean, he is very, very pro-Jew.
Anyway, I think there is some truth in that aspect, but it's not that he's Jesus, it's that he's a folk hero. This is what Jared Batten...
I'm going to continue to gestate on this one and see if it emerges that I could be onto something.
Dan's been studying the Bible for this one.
Well, when he does get resurrected, I suppose we'll put him on the merch store and you can go and buy Tommy.
Well, he was. He came back on Twitter.
Okay, fine. I'll talk to the guys. We'll see if we can get literally just his Twitter handle on a mug, and then we'll sell that. If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on Confessions of an Economic Hitman. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.